and have read her book. Singer-songwriter, storyteller Jan Seides writes lyrics-driven, award-winning songs combining uptown sophistication with down-home truth. They have been presented on prestigious venues in the US, Europe, and the Middle East. She is a graduate of the University of Texas Butler School of Music and has recorded 6 albums so far. Could the dual platform operator please start the recording?
Good morning. I'm going to move all this a little bit forward so that I can see everyone. And hopefully not mess up all James' work. There. So I move this forward so that I can see everyone. And hopefully I have not just messed up all of James's hard work here. My name is Jan Seides, and I have been overwhelmed to be asked to do this. I'm going to give you an idea of how this whole project started, a musical idea. There. What happened was, I know this sounds totally off topic, but what happened was I had hurt my back. And my daughter's Torah portion was Sarah Laughed. That was the part of the story that she got to expound on. And I had never noticed that passage before she gave her interpretation of it. So when I hurt my back, I kind of had this thought that this is what they were talking about. How hard it is when something bad is happening to believe it will ever change. And that's where this song came from. God spoke to Abraham, saying, "You're no longer young, but we will have a covenant. Pretty soon you'll have a son. He will found a nation, numberless as flakes of snow." When Sarah heard that, she said, "But we are far too old." And Sarah laughed. Sometimes a miracle seems probable as taking wing. So I just spend my time contemplating foolish things, counting drops in a sea of trouble, sifting grains of shifting sand, trying to solve the cosmic puzzle. Sometimes I think I understand why Sarah laughed. Did she laugh 'cause she lacked faith, or 'cause she just couldn't see any way getting there from here could ever come to pass? Well, if it's so hard to see beyond the wall across my road, guess I'll just take my leave and trust these wings will grow. 'Cause life ain't over till it's over. It ain't over even then. Fear is old, but hope is older. And when I doubt, I remember that Sarah laughed. How Sarah laughed. Sarah laughed. Thank you. So I played that song on stage when it was freshly written, and a woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "You ought to read this book I just read. It's all about women in the Bible. It's called Women in the Bible." Yeah, but it made it really easy to find the book. And I read it, and I'm sure I did not get out of it what she planned. What I got was, wow, there's a bunch of really important, come back here, really important people in this story, and their stories never get told, which is wrong. And I have kind of an inflated sense of responsibility, so I decided it was my job to tell those stories. The first one of which was about the woman who was responsible for 8 of the 12 tribes of Israel. And she has 2 sentences in the Bible, and I still have not remembered what the first one was, but the second one was that she had either weak or cow-like eyes, depending on which mistranslation you read. And no, that's not enough. This person was important. So I wrote her this song. Hopefully it will live after me and people will know that Leah was an important person. As far back as I remember, I was always Rachel's sister. Sometimes I think that started before she was even born. She was lively, she was clever, and everybody loved her. And when the men came looking, it was Rachel they looked for, not me. I was Rachel's sister. Jacob saw her fetching, Rachel saw her fetching, oh goodness. Oh, okay. Jacob saw her fetching water, asked if she was Laban's daughter, and she ran home to let us know, to make room for one more. I fell in love that night at dinner. He never saw for watching her. And when the meal was over, it was Rachel he asked for, not me, Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written, but those were the lives we were living. Here is the truth, not the one that others told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister. They said Jacob was the trickster, but my father brought me forward on Rachel's wedding day, draped in veils upon his arm. But then Jacob worked the harder, and for Rachel too he bartered. Still, I thought I'd win him when each new son was born to me, Rachel's sister. But every night I'd hear her whisper, give me sons like you gave my sister, and prove that you love me, prove you love me more. So then one night he did it, and little Joseph was his favorite. But Rachel died in childbirth when her second son was born, leaving me, Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written, but those were the lives we were living. So here is the truth, not the one that others told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister. Every now and then I wonder, is he still thinking of her? Though I'm the one that keeps him warm when the nights are cold. Did she love him as I love him? Or did she just love to win? But she is blessed memory, so I will never know. I am only Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written. But those were the lives we were given. Here is the truth, not the one the old men told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister, and it can only be told by Rachel's sister. Thank you. But I couldn't stop there. I have to confess that after a while, these songs just started writing themselves. The more reading I did, the more songs I had. So, of course, I did a lot of research. And one of the ones that caught my eye was the story of David and Bathsheba. Do you know what Bathsheba means? Daughter number 7. Valuable, huh? So, I mean, it took me a while to realize that because she's always been Bathsheba to me. But I started learning Hebrew because I was going to Israel, and there was this sudden flash of insight, like women were not valuable unless they had children, unless they were married and had children. And if they didn't, they were kind of a non-person, and I'm going to get to that point again later. But the story is in the song. The problem I had with it was, in the end, the baby died. And David, who had been praying for the child's survival, got up and walked away. And they asked him, why did you stop praying? And he said, well, the baby's dead. That was her baby, too. I've got something to say, though I'm not allowed to speak. I may not show my anger, but I am far from meek. The Lord smote us both, David, through your son, born and dead within a week. You spied while I was bathing. You knew I was alone, and I had to obey you when you called to me to come. While my husband was away, David, you took me from my home. Who do you think you are then? Who do you think you are then? Stealing roses from your neighbor's garden. My husband was a fine man, a loyal man and true, an honorable 'tis not a king like you sent him into mortal danger, David, while within me your child grew. Who do you think you are then? Who do you think you are then? Stealing roses from your neighbor's garden. There are commandments, there are commitments, and there are also consequences. My name is Bathsheba, and I will be your queen, and the mother of Solomon, so I will bear the shame. But the rose you stole, David, will forever wear a stain. Who do you think you are then? Who do you think you are then? Stealing roses. Who do you think you are then? Who do you think you are then? Stealing roses from your neighbor's garden. Thank you. So about women not having a position in society if they didn't have a husband and children. When we were in Jerusalem, it was a Saturday, and I watched all of the ultra-Orthodox Jews walking. Everybody walks on Saturday. That's part of the legal system. But we were, I mean, some of us drive. And we were passing by a corner in Jerusalem, and it was the husband and wife and a crowd of children. And that was the goal in those times, is to have lots and lots of children. Otherwise, you were not anything. So Jephthah was a military commander, and things were not going well in his battle. And he promised God to sacrifice the first goat or sheep that came to meet him on his way home. Well, that kind of went awry. Jephthah was my father, a soldier and commander. Jephthah was a gambler, and like gamblers everywhere, he made a deal with God. Defeat my enemy, give me this victory. Hear my prayer, and in return he offered up the first to meet him at his door. When the goats came out to greet him as he marched home from his war. I am his daughter, his only daughter, no sisters and no brothers. After all this time, I love my father, so I danced out to the gate. Came to celebrate him, but I found him crying 'cause he'd vowed to surrender the first to meet his eyes, and now his only child would be that sacrifice. So I would have no name, 'cause I'd have no life. I would never be a mother, I'd be no man's wife. And I had no heirs, and he would have the same. But more important, I'd have no name. So everybody assumes that what he did was sacrifice her like a goat or a sheep. That's not what he did. He held her out. He kept her from marrying. He kept her from having children. He kept her from having any role in society. Because it was his promise, but she was the one who paid it. So I went up to the mountains with all the other virgins. We sang laments and dirges and raised up our voices, and the men told their tale of Jephthah's righteous glory, but they wouldn't have that story if I'd had a choice. And sometimes the women gather to mourn my pain, and they weep for Jephthah's daughter and her forgotten name. Because I had no name, 'cause I had no life, 'cause I never was a mother, I was no man's wife, and I had no heirs. Let that be my father's shame, and more important, I had no name. 'Cause I had no heirs, despite my father's fame, and from that day to this one, I have no name. Thank you. I'm going to do one more because, as you can imagine, after a few of these, my house was getting kind of dark and gloomy. So I decided I needed something lighthearted. You ever gone looking for lighthearted or funny in the Bible? Take my word for it, it is not there. There's a story about a donkey, but it's a little hard to imagine that as a funny story. So what I ended up doing was finding amenable characters, people that in their circumstances probably didn't think it was funny, but I do. And I'll treat you to one of those as my parting shot. I hope I've piqued your curiosity. I'm at this point working on another album, but at some point I expect to expand on these because I have only one story from the New Testament, and that only happened because I found in a book, I found the Gnostic Gospel for Mary Magdalene, and it was right up my alley. They asked her what she learned because she was the closest to him, and she told them, and they decided that she was lying to them and cast her out. Yay. Anyway, dear Mama, you ask if I am enjoying my place as Solomon's latest wife. Yeah, it's got its moments. What can I say? It's a life. Right now, I'm his darling, and I'm calling that a plus, though the otherwise say his attentions will fade when a new face inspires his lust. That's why there's so many of us. No, Mom, he doesn't sing like his father did, at least not when he's with me. But he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, and he writes decent poetry. Oh, he's a glorious king to be sure, and masterful in the boudoir, and you might think that's all he is good for, but really, he's pretty smart. Just last week, 2 women quarreled about a baby they both claimed. When he offered to cut the child in 2, we all thought he'd gone insane. But he sure got that knot untangled. So if he doesn't sing like his father did, he's still all right with us, 'cause he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, and his poetry makes us blush. Well, Mom, I gotta go now. I'll try to write more later, 'cause it seems there's a queen needs my room for a bit, and they say that she's wealthy and oh so bewitching. And the king's so excited he's positively twitching, and I just became second rate. But oddly enough, I don't hate her, 'cause he doesn't sing like his father did. And I'm bored with his poetry. So though he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, she can have him, it's okay with me. Thank you very much. I have the CDs and the book that grew out of this project. It's also